There was a song that Avenged Sevenfold recorded for a WWE wrestler that never got released or used. Is that true?
Yes, that is absolutely true.
What was the worst show you've ever played?
I mean, I'm pretty sure people walked out.
Do you think Avenged Sevenfold will end up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
A couple of us might show up. Depends on what we got going on that day.
Hey, it's me, Jesse Lee, and thanks for tuning into the Jesse Lee Show. I have to apologize if you're watching this right now. It probably looks like this is being shot on a potato. I didn't have time to put together my whole camera rig, so I'm just doing this on the webcam. I just want to get this episode up. I want to get it out here, and I was excited. I'm very excited. You should be too, because we got Johnny Christ from the band Avenged Sevenfold on the podcast today. He's their bass player, and he also hosts his own podcast called Drinks with Johnny. So when you're done watching this, and also binging all my other content, go ahead and check out the Drinks with Johnny podcast. We nerd out pretty hard about wrestling. He actually tells me about a song that Avenged Sevenfold wrote for a WWE wrestler and why it never came out. And we get into all of the fan reaction to their latest album, Life is But a Dream. What fans have thought about this album. It's been a pretty polarizing record. It's not a sound that a lot of die-hard A7X fans were expecting, but that's kind of par for the course when it comes to Avenged Sevenfold, right? They kind of don't always give you what you're expecting. It's like a nice little treat, a nice little surprise. We talk about what's next for the band now that they're finished with their contractual obligations with their record label, and he tells me about the worst show they've ever played, what it's like getting sober and hosting a podcast called Drinks with Johnny while being sober, and whether or not he thinks he'll ever be in the Rock Hall, touring with Ronnie Radke, and just a ton of other stuff. If you're listening on Spotify, please make sure to hit the follow button so you get notified every time I drop a new episode. And if you see those little 5 stars on the profile page, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and just click those 5 stars real quick. Be real fast. Don't even think about it. Just hit them, It's like giving me a little virtual high five. And if you're watching on YouTube, you gotta hit that subscribe button so you can also get notified on YouTube. You gotta get notifications from me. I'm going to be all up in your DMs notifying you. Speaking of DMs, if you are enjoying the episode, please take a screenshot, share it on social media, tag me in that. Let's get this tag. Let's play a fun game of tag, all right? When we were kids, running around, playing tag, having fun, let's do that. But, digitally, I think that'll be fun. I'll enjoy it anyway. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. All right, let's get into the episode. Well, dude, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me. We're going to get into all the music and band stuff, of course, but we really need to talk about what's really important, and that is, how did you feel about Wrestlmania, man?
Oh, I'm so glad we're starting here. Yes, I freaking loved Wrestlemania. Wrestlemania 40. They pulled it all out, man. It was a fantastic showing. The only regret I have is not flying out to Philly myself to see it. But I mean, it was incredible. They always do it right for Mania, man. It was really cool.
It's such an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, dude. Like, it's just like, it's so, I mean, obviously it's in the mainstream right now, so that's kind of cool, because anytime anything gets like popular and everyone's enjoying it, kind of makes it more fun to talk about with people and stuff. But for fans like us who have been like watching it since the 90s and stuck with it throughout the slower times, it's so cool to see like how like cool it is again. It's like I put a meme up about this the other day. I never thought in 2024 I'd be watching The Rock headline Wrestlemania and see Limp Bizkit selling out stadiums and festivals. It's 1998 all over again, dude.
F&A, man, fucking A, dude. It's absolutely right, and I'm so glad he said bringing it back to like mainstreaming, and because it has been. It's felt like a while. I mean, it's the WWE has been flourishing for the past 20 plus years. Still, if you look at it monetarily and attendance wise and viewership, that really hasn't been affected. But it's just that feeling, right, that's going on right now in wrestling, that it is becoming a little bit, just like in music, and different genres will have their moments. They never really go anywhere, but they'll get into that pop culture mainstream era here and there during the ebbs and flows. And right now, wrestling's hitting on all cylinders again, like to your point, like it is 24 years ago, which is fantastic, because I mean, I mean, WWE is getting ready to move over to Netflix. Seemingly Raw is going to be a little bit more, I know apparently they don't like hearing the Attitude Era being thrown around, but that's what my kinship is. I was 12 years old during Attitude
Same.
Era and I fucking loved it. So, I mean, it looks like there's at least a little bit more tongue in cheek wrestling coming back now that, Paul Levesque, Triple H is in charge with, a new board of directors and Endeavor and TKO. The Rock is just killing it. Well, he said he's gonna go away for a little while, but he reminded Cody that he'll be back for that title. So maybe 41 we'll get Rock versus Cody. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope they do utilize him throughout the programming and stuff. Like, I hope it's not just like they didn't bring him back for the one-off for Wrestlemania, because obviously he is, a part of owner now, so he's going to be involved. But I hope they do sprinkle him in every now and then, like in some kind of bad guy, Vince McMahon era CEO, like commissioner status, something like that. Sprinkle him in every month or so, put him on Raw and have him fuck with people or something. I think it'd be cool.
Dude, anytime they throw The Rock in, everyone's gonna love it. And it's similar to John Cena at this point. John Cena for the last couple years has been on the roster, but he's been, he just shows up every once in a while, and you never know when. I mean, everybody was still there in Philly for this past Monday Night Raw, which was incredible. Yeah. And seeing, I bring up John Cena because I was just watching it again when he came out with the Awesome Truth, which, man, so cool. I love those guys.
He looks great, John Cena. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I was surprised how lean he was looking. Like, because, I'm sure he's not as juiced up as maybe he might have. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't do straight up juice.
Juicing, man.
Yeah, not straight up juice, but
no one has to do straight up juice anymore. It ain't the 80s and 90s anymore. There's a lot of other things that you can do to get there.
Right. Like, I mean, maybe he's just not using as many supplements or whatever, or maybe it's just that's his, what he wants to look like. Now I was just surprised when I saw him come out in WrestleMania, because again, he looks great, but I was like, oh wow, he's like a lot leaner than I remember him being.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also comes off when you're doing movies. I mean, he's released 4 major movies in the last year. And I think that they want a little bit more of a leaner look sometimes there. Also, I mean, maybe he's just doing more yoga, getting a little leaner, a little bit healthier. Yeah. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not out of shape. That's for sure.
Hell no. that guy's got like 10 years on me, and he's looks like he's fucking got 20 less. I mean, he's in much better shape than I am.
I think we were all kind of like hoping for Stone Cold's music to hit when The Rock was out there.
The glass shattering. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, I think we were all kind of waiting. And like the gong and the Undertaker coming out was definitely cool. I guess it does make more sense storyline wise if The Rock is the final boss, but the Undertaker is technically the boss, or was revered as the boss of the WWE. So I get that aspect of it, but I don't know. I was just wondering if they asked Stone Cold and they couldn't make the money work, or if it just if they really were thinking of going Undertaker the whole time. I just don't know.
I'm not going to pretend to know for sure. Obviously, yeah. I'm not on the board or making any decisions in wrestling, although I should be. But no, I mean, I think everybody was really excited at the prospect of that after a couple weeks ago on Raw, when you saw the Cena bus and the Stone Cold bus in the background when Rock was whipping the shit out of Cody.
Yeah.
And it was lit. I mean, that was purposeful. Yeah. I mean, they lit was those trucks.
Yeah.
And I think it was to, hey, maybe Stone Cold, but I loved that I think it was perfect because they made you think Stone Cold, and then you got the swerve with, the gong coming out. I mean, that still sends chills down everyone's spine when you hear that gong and the lights go out. I mean, the Undertaker he's the Undertaker, man. There's enough said, right?
Yeah.
I personally loved that main event of night 2.
Oh yeah.
It was perfect. It was perfect in the sense that you knew there was somebody coming out from either side, right? They went back and forth. Now that guy's in the table. Oh shit. Now who's going to come from Cody's side, and who's going to come from the Bloodline side? And they went back and forth and back and forth. I absolutely loved it because just those spots and everything. They're quick spots too. I like that they kept them quick spots and got back to the match.
Yeah, I mean that whole ending that of everyone coming out, like the like I've heard described as like the Marvel Avengers Endgame sequence, like everyone coming out, you know. And but yeah,
absolutely, I didn't.
Yeah,
That.
and those clips are like, you know, the one are being shared the most from Wrestlemania. But yeah, when you think about it, like you said, like that spot of all those guys coming out was probably like what, maybe 10 minutes at most of the entire match, you know, as a whole. So,
yeah.
I also wonder if they did old school with it and actually had the Undertaker like hide under the ring for the entire match and come out at the end. Like, because I don't know, man. Right?
I don't know if the Hall of Famer is going underneath the mat these days, dude.
Just sitting there texting on his phone. Like,
not that he couldn't. Not that he couldn't. I'm not saying that. But I just highly doubt. I'm sure they had a different route for him to take. You know?
Yeah.
But, seen him do a choke slam on The Rock after he delivered a rock bottom to John Cena. Even going to night one during the tag team match, I loved it when everybody booed, because even though everyone, you know, seemingly was against the final boss in that stadium, everyone was still sad to not see the people's elbow dropped purely at the beginning of the match. But then they brought it all back, and I was like, this is what I needed. But I will say, my only criticism to the people's elbow, I know it's been a while for The Rock, and I don't mean to cast any shade or anything like that on the great Rock. I'll pay homage to the final boss. He can do no wrong. But I missed the kick of the arms, man. He didn't kick the arms in before he went to those ropes. And I don't know if maybe that's a new final boss move where he's not kicking the arms anymore. But I wanted to see those arms get kicked in.
Oh yeah, and the disrespect to the arm, like fuck that.
Yeah, man, I missed that a little bit. But I mean, overall, I mean, seeing The Rock in there, I'm friends with comedian Ron Funches, and he told me a few years ago, The Rock is the Beyonce for men. He could do no wrong. he's everywhere in the perfect way, and he's the biggest and the best for a very good reason, man.
Yeah, I think the most iconic people's elbow was when he slid in the loafers. I don't know, do you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
He slid halfway across the ring in the loafers and dropped. Oh, dude, so epic. Speaking of wrestling, fun. What's that?
Always fun to talk about wrestling, man.
Speaking of wrestling, is Avenged Sevenfold, have they ever been involved with AEW? I remember hearing you say at one point that they used your music for an entrance or something like that.
Yeah, they did just recently at Revolution was the coolest one. I'll get to that one in a second. But a couple pay-per-views ago, I'm good friends with Darby Allin over there. He's been on my podcast. He was one of my earlier guests, to be honest,
nice.
Back in a while ago. And since then, we became fast friends. Over the years, we, keep in touch and everything like that. And then I showed him the new record, Life is But a Dream. One of the times he was out before it was released, I think that was January 2023. We'd just gotten it mastered and we were hanging out. So I showed him the record and he was really into it, and he really gravitated to a couple of songs, namely Game Over. And that was the first one he implemented into a promotion for a tag team match that he and Sting were going to have at the pay-per-view. Actually, it was a 3-way tag, if I remember correctly. Edge had just come over as Adam Copeland as the Rated R Superstar into AEW. They had a 3-way match, and I don't remember the opponents now off the top of my head. This is a few months ago. They ran it during the pay-per-view during the 0 hour. And then, actually it was in November. I remember now, it was my birthday because I went to the forum. They were at the forum for it. And I got to see that match. But yeah, and then flash forward to last month at Revolution, Sting's last match. Months leading into it, Darby had hit me up and said he had this great idea for that promo of Sting's last promo for his last match. And he wanted to use one of our songs. I think at the time he was looking at Death, which is part of God as towards the end of the record. But then they ended up going with Life is But a Dream, the piano piece that Sinister Gates put together, and it worked great. I mean, if anyone wants to, you could go on YouTube and Google, and search that and get the whole promo, I'm sure, or go to AEW's YouTube channel. It was done really well. It was, you had Yoder over there. Shout out to Yoder at AEW putting it all together. And it was really cool. I got to go to Greensboro for that before we started our last leg of the last leg, not our last leg of the North American tour, but yeah, we were out there. We were starting up in Buffalo, so I went out a couple days early, went to Greensboro, got to hang out in the locker room area or backstage, walking around there, seeing some of the guys, and then of course went out in the arena to check out the Sting match, the Sting and Darby match, his last match, and they played it over. I'm just standing over there looking at those big screens and hearing "Life Is But a Dream" as Sting is setting up to come out with his sons in this epic, finale for his amazing career. And man, that's like one of the highlights. I mean, there's been some highlights in my career in Avenged Sevenfold, but being a part of that in some small way and being in the arena to feel that was definitely something that like never expected, but so happy it happened.
Yeah, man, being a part of, one of the most legendary wrestlers, like send-offs, like, yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, man.
I heard a rumor that there was a song that Avenged Sevenfold recorded for a WWE wrestler that never got released or used. Is that true?
Yes, that is absolutely true. Back in, I want to say 2007-ish, 2006-ish, Ken Kennedy was running things over there, and evidently he was a fan, had reached out, or someone there was a fan. I don't quote me. This is this is 20 years ago almost now, of how exactly it came to us, but we recorded and wrote an original piece for him to come out to. It definitely had the Ken Kennedy in it and everything, and it's funny because last year I went to Wrestlemania when it was here at SoFi and ran into John Hammer, who works with the music department of WWE, and he's a fan of me and Shadows were there together with our kids, and he came over to our suite. We were talking, and he remembered that, and he was like, "Yeah, like,
oh, nice,"
and he's like, "You know what? I think I still have it." And me and Matt were like, "Oh my God, I haven't heard it in years." Like none of us could find it anymore, like where it was. And we listened back to it on his phone, like ear to ear, where there's like stadium going on behind us. But yeah, no, that rumor is absolutely true. I wish we could find the originals of it. Unfortunately, it was a thing between Warner Music and WWE couldn't come to an agreement on the contract or the rights to the song at the time. For whatever reason. I mean, the people who were there at the time aren't even working for Warner anymore, and probably not many of them in WWE are working there anymore that had those negotiations. But unfortunately, it never came through. I don't know what the legality is of us being able to ever show that song or anything like that at this point. So, but yeah, it's true. We went in, recorded it. I think we were in the middle of a tour, and we went into a studio and recorded that. And I was really bummed it didn't come out too, because it was a good tune. It was a good intro tune.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know if it was an album a song, but definitely for a one-off and to be a part of Ken Kennedy's entrance, that would have been really cool.
Yeah. Do you used to get paid for something like that? 'Cause, I mean, you put work into it, you recorded, and like you did your end of the bargain. It's not your fault that the red tape held it up.
Oh, I mean, no. If it doesn't come out, because Warner, they pay for the time in the studio and everything like that. And everything's recoupable under those deals and stuff. So, I mean, maybe there were some performance royalties that still came through, but to be honest, those aren't paying any bills. So
those aren't buying a sandwich.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I hope we get to hear it one day, because I'm super interested to know that it really does exist.
Me too.
So
I want to hear it again, not just off the phone again. I want to hear what we did. I remember parts of it now because it was coming back to me last year when I heard it on the phone. But I want to hear it as a whole as well, and I would love to be able to release it again. I have no idea. I'd have to follow up with management and everything and see if we can locate it, number one, and number two, what the legalities of releasing it might be.
It'd be great if Ken Kennedy ever came back too, and we just use that as his return song.
Is he? Yeah, I mean, are you aware of what he's up to these days?
I haven't. I've heard his name since the late 2000s.
Yeah, I'm sure people watching or listening to this, someone out there knows everything and can comment and let us know what happened to him. But I did hear a while back. I don't know if he was in great health for a while. I think I might have heard a rumor. Don't quote me on that, of course.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's healthy and good to go.
You know what? We got Google in our pocket right here. Hold on.
I hope he's not one of the guys who got in trouble over the years with everything. Who knows?
Well, he's still alive. That's the good news.
That's that much I know. Yeah.
He's 48 years old. Mr. Kennedy is still with us. That's good. Yeah, no, there was a rumor that he might come back to Royal Rumble. That was the last news we've heard about him. So I don't know. If he ever does come back, though, that's what we got to make happen. We got to make the Avenged Sevenfold track happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of tours, man, I saw you guys on your last tour, and it was so tight. That was such a tight set you guys played. I loved it. Just all the visuals you guys put. I mean, I could tell you guys put a lot of thought into the actual show on top of the music. So, dude, it was just a great time. I had an awesome time watching you guys. I know you mentioned the highlight of the Sting match, but was there any other major highlights from this past tour for you guys, or for you specifically?
And there was a few, man. It was a really great tour. I know that you told me you were in Cleveland. And I was a little bummed because I was like, "Oh, dude, had you said something before, I would have come out and said hi to you at least." But there was a lot of highlights too. I had a lot of friends coming out. Again, not to beat the dead horse there. Darby came out in Knoxville towards the end and made me do a challenge. He usually comes out and does trivia challenges with me as part of our gaming stuff that we do. And I always tell them I'm not going to take the punishments, as we call them. We done pepper spray, whipping, tasing, and all this kind of wild shit. And this time I hadn't taken any punishments yet, so I said I'll finally do one. And the fucker showed up with a shock collar, a dog shock collar, and I had to wear this. And he gave me trivia questions that were Avenged Sevenfold based rather. And I missed two.
Oh, man.
But luckily I didn't miss three, because he said if I missed three, he also had a tattoo gun, and I was going to have to get a tattoo on the spot. Of
his choice.
We hadn't gotten that far. That was good. It wasn't going to be a good tattoo.
Yeah.
that much I knew.
A punishment tattoo is never a good tattoo, no matter what.
No. But no, it was fun. It was, like I said, great tour. Went out in Pittsburgh. I have some friends out there in the Pittsburgh area. Kelly Pavlik, the Ghost, former middleweight champion. A couple other guys, and then just in general, the shows, man. I mean, having the support groups that we did out with Sullivan King and Poppy, that it was such a great experience to give to the fans. I think it wasn't the I'll say typical lineup for an Avenged Sevenfold show or a rock show in general. We really wanted to make it more of an experience, not just a concert, something beyond that, something that you walk away and go that was vastly different. And I experienced something very cool. Mm-hmm. And that was the idea when we set out to put that lineup together. And luckily they were all in for it too. I mean, became really good friends with Keaton, Sullivan King, had him on my podcast. And then, big highlight for me as a diehard Lakers fan. Sullivan King has befriended Shaquille O'Neal over the years of doing the dubstep stuff with DJ Diesel, as he goes by. And, he got wind of it and sent Keaton a video, who sent it to the rest of us, of us getting some props from the great Shaq. And
sick.
that was really cool. And then, of course, just, man, seeing all the fans every night, doing the meet and greet, seeing everybody from the Death Bats Club and all the beautiful fans out in attendance as well. And of course, just getting to hang out with, my four best friends in the world and all of our crew and stuff. It's truly fortunate in this life.
Dude, that's all. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a killer show. I had hit him up, my program director. I was like, hey, does the Avenged Sevenfold coming to Cleveland? Do they want to do an interview with me when they get here? And then he just hit me back. He's like, I got you 2 tickets for the show, but they're not doing interviews. And I was like, oh. And that's why I didn't hit you guys up. I didn't want to bother you. I'd be like, hey, can I come backstage and hang out anyway? So I was
well, just so you know, you could have anyway. And we're not always, and we're not always doing interviews on show days, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah, because I heard you say on the one podcast, your dad is from Cleveland, right?
Yeah, my dad was out in Cleveland. He's not from Cleveland. He's from Southern California, but he moved out there years ago. He's got a place. And he's been in several different places in Ohio for the last close to 20 years at this point, and I haven't been to any one of his houses. So nice. Finally, the one that he's been in 8 years, that's about 45 minutes outside of Cleveland. I got to go out there the day of the show, hang out with him. And then actually we got back and went up to the suite and watched Sullivan King. That was like third or fourth show in. So I hadn't seen it in person yet. I'd seen it online and stuff, but I hadn't seen the Sullivan King set in person. We were up in the suite, and even my dad was just like, a guy who has no idea what DJ or dubstep is, or, just probably in his generation thinks it's pretty talentless. And then to see a guy perform like that with no expectations, he was blown away. I mean, I was blown away even having the knowledge of what a great performer Sullivan is. But and the production value that he brings and everything's so cool. But yeah, it's a real testament that, my father of, 65 years old or whatever the hell he is. Sorry, Pops. I don't remember how old you are. But he's in his mid 60s and to convert a fan like that, I think is a true testament to what Sullivan's capable of.
Oh yeah, to get somebody from the older generation to embrace a newer artist that's pushing boundaries like that, they're doing something special when they can grab attention like that. And yeah, dude, if you ever come home for like a Father's Day cookout or something like that, hit me up, or come to Cleveland for that. We'll get together.
Are you born and raised from Cleveland?
I am. Yeah, I lived here all my life, man.
Awesome.
It's actually not too bad right now. I'm sure it has something to do with like global warming or something, but it's not snowing a lot lately, so that's been nice.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad when I was, it was a month ago, and at this point, and I got to go. Another highlight you mentioned, I got to go to Cleveland Cavaliers game. We had a day off before that show. Sat courtside, and everything just seems to be tying back into wrestling. But Ric Flair was there promoting his Woo energy drink at halftime right in front of me. Got the cameras around, and he's doing his thing. I'd seen him the night, a week prior at Revolution, of course, as well. But yeah, that was an incredible night too. Getting and being in that arena the night before, I almost said ringside, courtside, and then playing at the same arena the following night on Saturday night. And being back in the locker rooms and stuff, man, that's a beautiful arena. That LeBron built for you guys when he won that championship all those years ago.
Right.
I have a sneaky suspicion it wasn't quite as nice before that championship came to town, but it's definitely
been spruced up. We do get lucky. We got the arena, the baseball stadium, and the football stadium all with like a stick's throw away from each other right there in downtown. So it's probably a nice little mecca for sports if you come down there. And yeah, I saw that Ric Flair was in town that week too. Like he was at like a Circle K about an hour from me, like signing autographs and selling that Woo drink or whatever. And like it was like a random Wednesday, and I was like, I don't have time to drive an hour to meet Ric Flair today, but I really want to drive an hour to meet Ric Flair. Like I kept contemplating it, like that'd be so cool. But then I was like, I'm gonna stay in line for like 2 hours, and then like just to shake his hand. Like, if it happens organically, like what she says, seeing him at the game, that'd be pretty cool. A fun little story. I was at the Revolution. I was back in the hallway, and I was like one of the only people back there with a beer in my hand, and Rick just walks by and he sees me. He looks over. He goes, I posted the beer and I was like, oh, that's all I needed right there. I don't even need to shake the man's hand. He just gave me props for holding the beer. I'm good on that. Dude, yeah, he's still parties, man. He's still living the dream, living the Rick dream.
Absolutely. I saw him in we actually shared a flight the next day after Revolution to Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
And he was in the same bar I was that morning. So I went over and said hello as well.
That rules, dude. Yeah, the tour, the set I saw was a great mix of a lot of like the, I guess you would call it like the Avenged Sevenfold classics, the big hits, and then a good mix of like the newer stuff from Life Is But a Dream. And honestly, by the way, I think this new album really showcases your bass playing more so than a lot of the other albums. And I don't mean like S or D here or anything, but I don't know if it's just because like the music's more of a groove on this album that really like kind of lets your bass playing kind of showcase a bit. Like, was that intentional, or do you think it just kind of happened?
Oh man, I mean, we never set out for individual spotlighting in this band or anything. The songs come first. Obviously, songwriting is important. I think in the production, a little bit more space and a little bit more groove lends itself to that. But it's just another evolution of the band and another evolution of my songwriting and playability that lends itself to it. I mean, also, to be honest, leaning a lot on Sinister Gates on this one. The last several records, I've kind of been off doing my own thing. And this one, there was definitely some times when when I went to Brian and was just like, hey man, you're one of the most incredible musicians in the world, and not just a guitar player. I mean, everyone knows his guitar playing, but outside of that, it's just one of the most incredible musicians in the world. I would be a fool not to lean on that vast encyclopedia of knowledge as well, and take some of that and incorporate it. I mean, you definitely do it over the years a little bit, but this is one time when it's definitely a little bit more hands-on, working with him directly on some of the stuff. So I think that really showed through.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean, it's of course been a sort of, I guess, polarizing album for fans, because it is kind of a little bit of a departure from the sound that some fans might be used to. Do you think you guys are going to continue with this kind of groovy, spaced out vibe as you have, or is you guys going to switch it up again on the next one?
Time will tell, man. I think we always switch it. I mean, we've learned over the years that we have an incredible fan base that will follow us into whatever endeavors musical endeavors we try to accomplish. And, we like to keep ourselves on our toes. And we really write for the moment, that we're in and what we're feeling, what we're being inspired by musically, emotionally even. And that was, just the time that we were feeling. This was the inspirations we were going for. We wanted to create a different style record, but I don't know. It really just depends on what we're feeling at the time and what's coming out of us. We always put, everything that we have into it and make sure that we love what we're putting out. I mean, because that's all you really can do is you create the music, you create the piece of art, you create everything. As long as you put all the effort in and are honest with yourself of if you believe it's good or not. After that, you just put it out and it's up to everyone else to decide. So when I hear the words polarizing too, I always find it funny. And I love that. I love that it's polarizing. I think it should be, in a lot of respects. And also you could look at our catalog and there's no record has sounded the same. I mean, and that's, I don't want to say by design. It's because it's not like it's, overarching philosophy. It's like I said, it's just, we take our songwriting and our art very seriously, and we write for what we're feeling at the moment. And that's what you can expect, is that we'll put everything into it and give you the best product we think we could put out.
Yeah, that's what I love a lot about you guys is like you've been around for over 20 years and you could easily be like a curmudgeon rock and metal band that doesn't embrace new things and just plays the same songs and puts out the same records. But like you guys are embracing new ideas, new technology. Like, fuck it, let's do an NFT. Like let's try something different here, and that mindset, business wise and promotion wise, I think definitely bleeds over to, musically as well. Your writing and your production. You're not stuck in like these boxes that a lot of artists might find themselves in, especially bands that are so successful this far in. I think like some artists might get to a certain height. They're like, damn, like I don't want to fucking rock the boat here. Let's just do what we know works and keep it going, Whereas you guys are like, we know it works, but we're gonna do what we want to do. And yeah, like I said, not be a curmudgeon dick about it. I love that about you guys.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Like I said, live a very fortunate life to be in a band with dudes that I not only get along with, I love and consider real family. It's not hyperbole. It's legitimate family. You know, and you know, we didn't get in this to necessarily make a bunch of money and be a business band. You know, part of that comes with the territory after being around for so long, of course, but remembering the goals and keeping everything in mind that it's music, it's art, it's awesome, but it's not everything. And being able to have fun with it and be challenged is more important to us than, you know, making sure everything is to what people want or, you know, what might make, you know, the number one single or the number one record that week. It's irrelevant to us. So what's really important is, you know, the core group of us that consider each other family, that we're having fun and taking care of each other, as well as giving something great to the fans to experience. And, you know, that's always been the mantra of this band and always will be.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. I mean, you, like I say, you don't stick to a lot of formulas and stuff. I mean, last year you even said that you guys might veer away from doing albums and focus on doing, you know, singles going forward. Is that still something you guys are thinking about doing, or have you not even gotten that far yet since the tour just kind of settled? You're kind of just regrouping at this point?
No, there's still discussion. I mean, the reality is, we're officially free agents as of this month of a label. Our contract with Warner Music was up. We're still working with them for this album, but there's a vast way of putting out music now these days, and we're looking to explore it. You know, we want to see what you know, similar to, you brought up the NFTs and things of that nature. We're always trying to use, you know, the new tools that the young kids are out there figuring out before us. And, you know, it's all tools and it's all fun. It's all interesting to us. So the ability, with the way the landscape of releasing music and the music industry in general has changed over the last 20 years since we've been around, I think we're all really interested and excited to see what we can do differently out there. And whether that's a few songs at a time, an EP, a full album, who knows at this point. I know we all individually have our ideas of what we think we want to do. And, you know, we discuss it, you know, like, well, man, everything moving forward just feels different because we're not, you know, I don't even want to say tied down, but we're free agents at this point. We can do basically whatever we want, ever we want. And because we have that faith and trust with our fan base that we developed over the years, which is, you know, it's paramount. It's so amazing to be able to have that. That offers us this freedom to, you know, express ourselves artistically however we seem fit. And it's still a little early to tell. There's no big breaking news on that, unfortunately, on anything. But yeah, we're in constant talks of that. Constant talks of getting out there. You know, there's still a lot of cities on this tour that we haven't been to in a very long time, all over the globe. We're getting ready to do Jakarta, Indonesia, here in May, which is going to be at the end of May, which is going to be awesome because, I mean, the last time we were there was 10 years ago and we had to cancel that show. So to be able to come back, I can't even tell you. Someone can tell you exactly when the last time was we actually played there. And we've always had a really great time visiting there. So that'll be cool. Then getting back to the European festivals in the summer. Then so we got some other stuff that will be coming out pretty soon here as far as dates being announced for the rest of the year, and then getting into 2025, you know, and all the while keeping an eye on what we want to do musically. You never know.
Have you guys written anything new or have started working on anything new since then?
Not collectively. You know, everyone's, when you pick up your instrument, when you're thinking about things, when the inspiration strikes you individually, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I know for me, I've you know, been hitting some riffs and stuff and seeing where they go and whatnot. But, to say something would be, worked on for an Avenged Sevenfold thing, project or song at this point, I think would be premature.
I don't know. So with the Warner deal wrapping up, do you guys think you'll stay independent or make like Avenged Sevenfold records or something like that?
You know, like I said, it's it's pretty awesome because it's free agency. We could kind of feel it out and see what we want to do. I mean, this is really fresh, although we know it's been coming and internally have had discussions on it. But it's the opportunities are out there and almost limitless. So it really comes down to what the next piece of work we put together is and how we want to release it and what we're thinking we want to do. I mean, in a lot of cases, you could look at labels as a bank at this point. You get your loans that are all recuperable, and maybe that's not for us anymore. Maybe we could fund it with our own bank and figure it out from there. That's just the business side of it. That's just the money side of it, which isn't as fun.
Right.
It's more about now we get to decide, we talked about NFTs and we have our fan club, the Deathbats Club is an NFT based on the blockchain, running all that thing. Maybe we do something really cool with Web3 and the blockchain and NFTs and everything there. Like there's a lot of opportunity there. There's just a lot of opportunities, to be honest, and tools that are out there that we're excited to delve into and see, what works for us and what pieces we want to put out there. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, if any band, of your caliber, I think it makes a lot of sense for you to do something like the Metallica route, where like you just have your own kind of thing. The Black and Label they do, and have your own kind of in-house thing. Because, like you said, it's kind of like a very expensive bank sometimes with signing a record deal, And it's if it's not something you need, why give up that chunk? I guess at this point in your careers, because like you said too. It really doesn't matter in the long run because it's not going to affect the final outcome of the product or the music, because you're going to write and record and produce the stuff that you want to put out, regardless if it's on a label or independent. So, we are I speak for all Avenged Sevenfold fans when I say we're very much looking forward to that, though. When the day comes, we got some new stuff.
Yeah, man.
Aside from all the music, though, you got your podcast. I love the Drinks with Giant podcast. I'm a huge fan of that.
Thank you, man.
If anyone hasn't heard or watched the podcast, he talks to bands and also, of course, wrestlers, because everything comes back to wrestling. But you also recently gave up the hooch, right? Did I hear that right?
Yes. Yeah, I just did at the beginning of this last tour. Actually, after Revolution, after that bar I just mentioned that I was in with Ric Flair, shortly after that. I just... it wasn't, it's something I've been going back and forth with for the last several years since I had a son and stuff. And, a lot of personal and family things that come up and kind of realized I was just kind of being selfish and didn't really have it under control as much as I thought I did. But, there wasn't like a bottom of the barrel waking up every morning kind of thing.
Crashing your car.
And I know that's the story for a lot of people, unfortunately. Yeah. And I'm fortunate that I didn't have one thing like that. I mean, you could go back. Anyone who knows me personally could go back and point to a lot of things that I've done over the years when I'm drinking that probably should have stopped me at one point. But no, it was just a decision for my family and myself, really, just that as I was getting older, as there's more to be responsible for as a father and a husband, I just didn't like the way I was feeling anymore. Go on a weekend, have a big weekend, a bender, if you want to call it that. And, Monday rolls around, you're very unproductive and kind of depressed because, you get that, you have those dopamine levels going all the way up. You come down. Alcohol is a bit of a depressant. Physically, start to feel it more and more as you get older. Everyone out there my age knows what I'm talking about. And those who aren't there yet, you'll find out.
You'll get there. Yeah.
You'll get there. Hopefully. But yeah, it just started to take a toll on me.
Yeah.
And, it was a hard decision. I likened it to, probably the hardest breakup I'll ever go through in my life was this breakup with alcohol, but it was the time was right. I've done enough with it and I enjoyed it, but it just, when I was weighing the options, it was doing more harm than good, more often than not every time, of course, but more often than not. And I was like, I'm just going to give it up. And, I don't throw out that forever word because one thing I've learned after being on this planet for 39 years is you can't necessarily plan for the future all the time. And I don't know what circumstances may or may not come up, but for the foreseeable future, yeah, I will be off the booze.
So we're going to rename the podcast to like Coffee with Johnny or NA Drinks with Johnny.
No, man. I mean, that idea came up with the boys, Sam and Brando, who I do the show with. And, we kicked it around, and for a hot second, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it. I don't know if I'm going to change the name. And then after about a week, when my head really started to clear, I was like, what am I talking about? Like at this point, I'd say 70% of the time that I'm doing the podcast, we're not having drinks. I mean, it started out kind of revolving around drinks. It was going to be a drinking YouTube thing, to be honest, on Avenged Sevenfold's YouTube channel. And then as things started to progress and evolve in it, and I mean, at the beginning, I didn't know what the hell a podcast was. I thought I was just making a YouTube show, and then I got into podcasting over the time, and I really enjoy it. It's it's a passion project. It's not something that I'm sitting there like, making hand over fist money or anything like that. It's just, I get to talk to some fun people and rub elbows with some people that maybe I wouldn't very often, or even sometimes I have a lot of friends on that, over the years we've hung out in big group settings, but sitting down with them one-on-one and having a real honest conversation in that facet doesn't happen all the time unless you kind of force it. You know what I mean? And this is a fun way to do that for me. And then of course, learning the business of it is just fun. Learning how to, different ways of recording it, getting different quality. I mean, you go back to the beginning of when I did it, this quality was shit. And it's still probably not the best, but it's getting better all the time because I'm working on it. I like tinkering with it. So I have a lot of fun with it. And back to your earlier question on the name change, because so many of the times it's not real. Drinks is really just it's an icebreaker. Drinks means anything, I got the hat on right now for it. Still got the bottle cap on it. But and there's other alternatives out there now too. I mean, there are great NAs out there. I've fell in love with quite a few. I get them, this last tour, I was getting a lot of local craft, non-alcoholic IPAs on the rider just to try them all different, just to try them out, is really cool. And then, like I said, there's other alternatives. I never really had a problem with some other substances, although I'm off of those right now as well. I'm not ruling out that I'll be, smoking weed or, doing microdose of shrooms and psilocybin and tripping every once in a while when the time's right. But, booze was the problem for me. But, there's other things out there that, can take place of that in the future. But right now it's like, it's a conversation starter, and, if, I have a guest that wants to partake, I'll still make, if they're in person, I'll still make them a drink. If they're having a drink virtually, I'll crack a non-alcoholic beverage of some sort. But it's really more about the conversation. And as I said, getting to have that one-on-one, with someone and get to know them a little bit better or learn more about them as a fan of what they do. We are talking to any and everyone that one of us in the group of the project is interested in, and that means comedians, actors. You mentioned wrestlers, fighters. Trying to get some more athletes in. I'm a huge sports fan, so really just anyone. Mostly under the entertainment umbrella, but I'm not opposed to talking to someone with just a really interesting job out there too. It's just fun, man. I just enjoy it. And, I don't see any need to change the name. I know a lot of people, even in my personal life, they're like, so what does that mean for the podcast? Is because it's drinks, right?
Drinks is your life. What are you going to do?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's something I got to work on. It shouldn't be my fucking life.
Yeah.
But, second of all, no, it was always just a working title. And even when we sent out emails to get guests and stuff, we always had to put the caveat: drinks doesn't necessarily mean alcohol, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And, I could change it to make it easier, but I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. People will get it or they won't eventually.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep
it's part of the brand at this point. I don't think there'd be any reason to change it. I remember when I first started this podcast, I had I kind of liked what you were doing. And of course, I like the idea of having drinks because, like you said, it's kind of a good icebreaker, kind of chills everybody out. And I wanted to kind of do that on my podcast, but I quickly realized I can't be cracking beers on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. in Eastern every day, and then go pick up my kid from school.
Oh, come on.
And shit.
That's the quitter mentality right there. I was doing that, up until last month. I was who's on the podcast at what time? And I'm like, do they want to have a drink? And then sometimes somebody would be like, well, they'd be in Australia or something or somewhere where it's like nighttime for them. And they're like, oh yeah, let's make a cocktail. And I'm like, well, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning for me, but fuck it. Let's go,
Guess I'm not driving anywhere for about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, dude, I definitely backed up a lot over the last couple of years. Of course, having a kid, like you said, will do that to you. That will make you slow down a bit. And I mean, there were years where I was like getting wasted and like taking a piss in my friend's refrigerator and shit, like just doing crazy shit.
Whoa, solid.
But, yeah. Oh yeah, dude. His girlfriend's pretty mad about that. She's like, we like cleaned it up and like, didn't like tell her exactly what happened. And then she's like, next morning, she's like getting some like, fucking celery out of the fridge. And she's like, why does it smell like fucking piss in here? Like the fucking peas coming up through like the vents of the vegetable crisper and shit.
Yeah, you're gonna need to do a deep cleaning on that before.
Yeah. Well, I think they got a whole new fridge. I think they called the landlord, and the landlord came. And he's like, so what happened here? He's like, my friend peed in it. He's like, what? Like, we gotta get a whole new fridge. But yeah, I mean, I definitely am not doing that anymore. And I've backed up to, having like a beer or a couple beers a week every now and then. But like you said, like just feeling like shit the next day is like, we're all so busy. Like I can't afford to be slowed down, by being hungover or feeling like out of sorts because of, I had too many the night before. It does seem like kind of like a big, almost like cultural trend at this point too, where a lot of people are giving up booze or going sober and stuff. And I've seen a lot of like articles and stuff saying like Gen Z doesn't even drink at concerts when they go anymore. Supposedly they just drink water. I guess it's hydrated as fuck.
Yeah, well, which is smart. And I mean, I think it has become more of a culture thing, and I didn't really see it until it's like there's a couple analogies I'll make here in this little spiel, but like when I got sober last month, it was like when you buy that car that you haven't seen on the road, and then as soon as you have it, you're like, you notice it everywhere else. You're like, oh shit, everyone does have this car. Or to your point of the cultural change, it's I was thinking about it the other day. I was talking to a friend. I was like, it kind of feels like what our parents' generation went through when they, approached a certain age and everyone was quitting smoking because it was making them feel like shit. Everyone used to smoke a lot more in the 80s. And it was, in 90s and like kind of in the mid 90s, it started to become a cultural trend that people were getting healthier and not smoking cigarettes. And, in the same sense, I think that that culture trend has been happening with alcohol. And to be honest, and by the way, I am not poo-pooing anyone that enjoys a beverage, enjoys a good story, enjoys, having fun, as long as they're not fucking with anybody else, of course, don't go behind a wheel and, hurt yourself or anybody else. And, as long as it's all stuff you can laugh about with the next day, fucking have fun with it. I mean, alcohol is there for that reason. And, as I said, I've taken a lot of time off here and there, and then making decisions that it's the unforeseeable future or the foreseeable future. I always say I'm like an idiot there, but the foreseeable future, it's, it'll always be there for you again. If you just feel like you need time off and stuff, and then not even physically, the cultural change. I think a lot of people are working on their mental health a lot more these days, and alcohol doesn't help your mental health. It really doesn't. And I think that was the biggest deterrent for me is like, I could always, I'm still young enough and active enough. I could always, get a workout in, sweat it out and make my body feel better. I became a professional at it on the road, making sure I felt good for the shows and stuff. But, mentally it still takes its toll on you eventually. Especially if you're abusing it or just doing it more often than you think you should. It's a personal preference, I believe, with alcohol and stuff. And just as long as you're, smart about it and, working on your mental health still, for me, it was really causing some mental issues for me. And it wasn't worth, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze anymore, man.
Yeah. I mean, somebody told me once, they're like, alcohol is poison. You're putting poison in your body. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's a fun poison.
Silly talk there. No, not poison.
Silly toxins.
Not my friend, not my dearest friend, alcohol. You should never do that to me.
But yeah, that is like you said before. Like for me too, like a lot of my personality, not my personality, but a lot of like things I like to do have been tied to alcohol, like going to concerts, going to sporting events, going to parties and stuff like that. And like social events, if there's booze, I feel like you should be drinking and talking and having fun and stuff like that. So when you cut that part out, it does feel like something's missing sometimes. Like, oh shit, like usually there's supposed to be something here, right here while I'm having this conversation. So yeah, it kind of is like a mind shift. You got to adjust and recalibrate and like, yeah, dude, you really do realize like, oh shit, there's a lot more energy here, there's a lot more available for me right now without the booze weighing me down, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and like I said, it's I'm not a preachy type. I'm not anything like that. This is just a decision that I made for myself personally, and for my own mental health and physical health and my family and everything. And I'm happy with the decision. It's been great. To your point of it was a realization over the several times I've taken 6 months off at a time, 3 months, month off here and there. But that realization that culturally, at least here in the States, I can't speak for everywhere, but concerts, I mean, something as simple as going fishing, going camping. There's, it's kind of built in, have a beer with this, have a beer with that, and you kind of don't realize it until you step away from it a little bit, that how tied in it is to everything social. But it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't need to be. Those things are still fun without it, right? Like you said, Gen Z is going to concerts with water in their hand. That's great. That's great. Stay hydrated. And there's other options out there. I mean, like I said, they got weed legal in like most states, and it's in drink form, gummy form, smoking form, vape form, any form you fucking want, basically at this point. So if it is a social drink that you're looking for and you like marijuana, go grab one of those cans of seltzer, man. Like they're good. I could attest. I've had them many times. They're fucking awesome. Like, and now like a lot of the studies with psilocybin, mushrooms, and microdosing, and the positive effects it could have on you mentally. Not always, of course, and anything can be abused. I mean, fucking coffee and chocolate could be abused, but there's other options out there to venture into. And now that, as I said, those studies on psilocybin, what it can do for you mentally is out there, it's becoming more acceptable. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time, and you'll be walking around and having a drink of shrooms, a drink of marijuana in each hand, and you'll be having a good time, man. And waking up the next day not feeling like shit.
Yeah, not feeling sluggish.
Go figure that.
Yeah, I remember when they started serving booze in movie theaters. And I remember distinctly thinking like, oh man, so come on. Like, this is the last thing that I do that doesn't involve booze socially. Like, I don't even...
I was so happy because I didn't have to sneak them in anymore. It wasn't like I didn't go to the movies with that. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story on that. With years ago, when we were in the van days, the late great Jimmy the Rev Sullivan, my brother, had this giant fucking trench coat, and what we would do is we had a hole cut in it, and we'd throw in beers in that trench coat. Nice. Just walk in with that trench coat, and it was always funny because sometimes he'd have me wear it, and I'm obviously much smaller in stature as well. So this trench coat's like just looks absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's like a worse version of Kevin Smith, a Silent Bob, walking around, full with a trench coat full of Coors Light at the time,
That's fucking amazing.
But yeah, I was excited to tell that. I was excited when they started putting booze in the movie theaters. I thought, great, get a glass of wine with my popcorn and peanut M&Ms and enjoy a movie. Let's go.
How are you on time right now? Do you gotta get going?
I'm good. We could go for a little bit longer, man.
All right, I just had some fan questions come in. I did a little sticker on my Instagram story to see if anyone had any questions. So pitch a couple of these your way before we get out of here. What was the worst show you've ever played?
Oh, fuck. To go back in time on that. There was probably, there's a few from the early days that I could pick for sure. Just, worst can mean so many different things. Least amount of people, most embarrassing, worst for me personally.
Yeah.
Just not being able to play and stuff like that. There's a lot of different ones come to mind, but man, I don't know. I think maybe one of the times in Hamburg, the first time I think we were in Hamburg was pretty bad. Like we had gone over there for the first time to mainland Europe, and we had this success of City of Evil, I believe at this point, or City of Evil had just come out, and we were popping off here in the States, and had to go over there and slum it. This was like 2005, and we play a place that was like, oh yeah, it's going to be a great turnout, everything like that. And it was a bar of like 10 people, and we hadn't done that.
Wow.
It's been a few years before that. And, we show up at the time still wearing our makeup with our fog machines. And we're like, yeah, this is, we're on top of the world right now. And we were quickly humbled in that bar, I'm pretty sure people walked out.
Wow.
I think it started with 10 and ended with 5, if I remember correctly. So, and again, like I said, it wasn't like this was like the first gig we'd ever played. This was like we were making a name for ourselves in other parts of the world, but they were not having it there yet. So,
where was this at? Germany, you said?
Yeah, it was in Hamburg, actually.
Oh man,
yeah,
so the Germans were late to A7X, huh?
Yeah, they were late until like the last couple of records, to be honest.
Wow.
I mean, it was a slower growth, and apparently that's the way I've heard it over there. But we, after that time and going back a few more times, it slowly grew. It was really just, it was humbling because we had to start over in a territory when we were, everywhere else was popping off. But it worked out in the long run, and we're happy that we put in the time and became closer to our German fans through it.
Nice. Yeah. I would not be, I would not expect that much of a disconnect in the audience from country like that.
Oh, and a fun drinking story as far as like just my worst show for me was probably, I think it was the first or second time we were in Brazil. I had drinking all night and into the morning, day of show, showed up 20 minutes before, and I was a good step behind everybody else playing, to the point when I just like looked over at everyone and just apologized to my bandmates, and then sat on the drum riser for the rest of the show, just sad, playing along. I think they took me out of the mixes for everybody, and I was just sitting there. we ended up making a big joke about it, but like in the moment, it wasn't funny for me. But it became a funny story later. But yeah, that was in the moment. That might have been like my lowest of the lows on stage there.
Yeah, dude, I used to get pretty wasted on stage when I played shows, and like, I was playing in a punk rock band, so it was kind of unnoticeable. And I remember one time we played an acoustic set, and it was just me and the singer, and like it was super noticeable then. I was like, okay, if we ever do this again, I want to make sure, because I am literally the only music happening right now.
In the early days, we all drank before, and we started listening back. Once we were able to like hear back ourselves, like on audio recordings and stuff from this stuff. I mean, this is back in the club days. Yeah. We would listen in the van afterward, and we all look at each other and be like, I think we're going to have to stop drinking before shows. So we like early on, like back in like 2004, I want to say, we all kind of made the decision, like no drinking before the shows. And then I obviously broke that in Brazil.
But next one from a fan here. Do you think Avenged Sevenfold will end up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and or do you care?
I mean, I don't know. First off, that is up to, the powers that be, the fans, I guess, whoever votes on that shit. I don't actually even know who votes on that. Do I care?
No one does.
Do I care? No, not really, because it's not on the radar, in that sense. Would I be honored and humbled if we were? Would we be happy about that? Sure. Yeah. I mean, that would be a huge honor. Absolutely. When you think of all the other artists that have been inducted over the years, I mean, to put Avenged Sevenfold's name in a place next to theirs would be a huge honor. Absolutely. But it's hard to say, like, care, like, it wouldn't make or break my life. I'll put it that way, but it would, it'd certainly be a notch on the old belt if we were ever put in there. Absolutely. It'd be a huge honor.
So you guys would definitely show up for the induction then, right?
A couple of us would. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't. You can't speak for everyone for sure.
Yeah. I can't speak for everyone, but no, a couple of us might show up. Depends on what we got going on that day.
Right. You might be getting inducted somewhere else. You don't know.
Who knows?
Did you guys get a lot of heat for touring with Ronnie Radke?
I didn't feel any directly. I know on social media, I'm sure there was when we made the announcement, I think we were aware that there was some pushback on that. I mean, Ronnie's a polarizing dude on social media, but I mean, you get to know him personally. He's a good dude. I think that's the good and bad of social media. Is as everyone said before, the good thing is that everyone has a voice. The bad thing is that everyone has a voice, and it can be polarizing at times. And I think at the time there were some allegations out there that amounted to nothing, and unfortunately, that sometimes ends up being the social media culture, and it's bad for a couple reasons. One, if it's entirely untrue, it's dragging someone's name through the mud, and that's shitty. But to go even further, it kind of takes the sting away from true victims, and I think that's the biggest travesty. Honestly, you drag someone's name through the mud, they can bounce back and debunk a lot of that stuff, but it just makes it harder and harder to know where the real victims are. And I think that's the real problem. And I think that's mostly where the pushback came from. I mean, we get pushback anytime. We always want to bring out, like on this last tour, bands that sound different, and are doing something different that inspires us or just interests us. Yeah, and I think that was the case with Ronnie and Falling in Reverse, and Kim Dracula was on that tour. Another amazing new artist. Had a really great time getting to those guys. They have a really bright future ahead of them. You see the pushback, and at first you look at it and say, well, we got to make sure that these allegations, first of all, are unbased. And the research that we had seen at the time was fair to say it was unbased, and we went forward with it. And if you don't like someone based on the way that their persona is out there, there's nothing we can do to change it. That's your opinion, that's your critique, and you're more than allowed to. Allowed isn't even the right word. You're supposed to have those opinions and think for yourself and come up with those things yourself. But I mean, he's a polarizing guy sometimes, and and funny. I can't say in our career we haven't been polarizing people at times. So I mean, right. what are you going to throw a stone in a glass house? I mean, what are you going to do here? We got a lot of mutual friends with Ronnie and Bobby Shapinski, who does Blackcraft Cult and Blackcraft and Smoke Blackcraft, and so we become friends with him. We've done some merchandising stuff with them over the years, and the connection was made through that. And it was just I guess the answer is we saw some of that on social media, but you got to take all that stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I think too often people conflate social media with like what's going on out in the real world. Like, whereas you can see like a ton of like outcry and like hate for Ronnie Radke, but then turn around and see him literally selling out arenas. It's like, okay, everyone hates Ronnie Radke, right? Like it quotes like, well, who are all these people at these stadiums and for these arenas and whatnot? It's like, it's kind of goes back to the Nickelback days. Like everyone hated Nickelback apparently, but somehow they were the biggest rock band on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's always been the case without social media. You just brought up a point there with Nickelback and stuff like that. There's been other cases like that, but you're right. Like it is interesting and I see how it can happen. I mean, I've fallen down the wormhole a couple of times on social media and been like, oh my God, this is what everybody's feeling. It's like, well, if you really break it down and see the numbers of people who are even logged into a Twitter or an Instagram, it's as massive as it is. I'm not downplaying it. It's still not a majority of the population of the world. Like it's still a small portion. And then the people on there who are, commenting on everything, putting in their 2 cents, everything is an even smaller portion of it. A lot of people just use it for getting in touch with friends, learning some news. Hopefully they're fact checking some of that news, and you shouldn't be getting all your news from social media. But you know, it's a good starting point, I guess. If you see something that you're interested in and it pops up on your feed, like, oh, I want to learn more about that, go somewhere else and learn a little bit more about it. But you know, it's an entertainment tool. I think it's important that people understand, at least to me, this is my opinion, of course, that all social media is a tool. It's an entertainment tool, and it serves its purpose, but it's not everything. And in fact, it's a lot smaller than a lot of society likes to bank on.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. I agree with you on that one. Let's do one more before we get out of here. Cool. Is there an Avenged Sevenfold song that you don't like to play live, or you're just not a fan of?
Ooh. You know, I'd be hard pressed to find one. I know a couple of my bandmates have ones and have said that before. I'm trying to think of anyone that I just don't. I mean, there's songs that we played over the years that I kind of go on autopilot during that we play at this point, but I'm always, you know, when I find myself in those moments, I try to put myself more in the performer part of it rather than the artist of, you know, music and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you know, I try to, this is what it comes down to. I try to remind myself and not be so jaded that maybe this is the millionth time I've played this song, but there's a decent amount of people in this crowd that came to see that song. A decent amount of people in this crowd who have never seen an Avenged Sevenfold concert before, let alone seen their favorite song, which very might be this song. Maybe it's a Backcountry and Unholy Confessions, something along those lines that we've played so many times before. And not that it's every night, but some nights I get to some songs like that and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of going through the motions. But what I try to do is remind myself that it's not about me. It is about, like, I'm fortunate enough to be in this position in front of fans that actually give a fuck. And it's their one night out. I'm going to give them their all. If I'm not having a fun time on the playability of it, I'm going to find a way to make it fun and interact with the crowd. And I just try to lean on the performer side of my alter egos, I guess. And, you know, you know, and I just try to just make it fun in different ways, I think. So that's all. I know that question's come up and some of my bandmates have picked songs that they're not super fond of playing live. But, the other thing is for us, like, it's rare. We make our own sets and we build them out ourselves and stuff. So, and we go back and forth, and it's rare that we'd put a song in the set that not everyone's really happy with, you know? So I don't know. Like I said, if I get bored with a song, it's about the worst I get. And if I'm getting bored with it, I find a way to keep myself entertained on stage.
Well, that's a good spot to be in for sure. Found a nice
very
little
fortunate, man. I know.
There.
Hey, I know. I thank my lucky stars every fucking day. Anyone listening, it's not a pompous thing, man. It's literally, I'm just living to keep turning the page and having fun with it. And being very grateful along the way.
Well, on that note, are there any last minute plugs you want to get in here before we get out?
No, man. I think we talked about it all. I mean, everyone's aware of the Drinks with Johnny podcast. That's my fun project I still get to do. So we are plugged that one. If anyone cares to check it out, go ahead, and if you enjoy it, follow, subscribe, whatever they call it these days. They change the name for that like every few years. So I don't know. Just make sure you're put your notifications on and check out more.
I know they need one universal term for all that.
Yeah, because no one even wants to hear us say that when we're like at the end of the show. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure oh God, it's fucking embarrassing. But make sure you hit that like button for this show too.
On that note, please hit that button. Any other projects or anything else you got in the works, or anything else you guys are doing band wise that we didn't discuss?
Oh man, for those who have VR headsets and stuff like that, a couple months ago we did our first ever virtual reality live performance. Concert gets thrown out, but it wasn't a concert because it wasn't in front of people. But it was more of a live
more than that German show, probably.
Yeah, 100%. No, just like it was really cool. I really enjoyed being a part of it. And if anyone hasn't checked it out yet, it's at Amaze VR. I prop it up because it was a fun experience that we didn't know what we were getting into. kind of, the idea was pitched to us, and we're kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, after being through it now and on the other side of it, I could say I'm very proud of what we did. Doing a live like a live music video is really what it came down to. And being in a band with guys who can really fucking play and sing around me and perform in that way, and find a new vessel for it was really fun. And I hope people can check it out so we could do another one. I'd like another try at it. Now that I've actually been through it, I'm like, all right, that was pretty good, but I think I could do better. So
yeah, got my virtual reality legs on. I'm good now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Johnny, dude, I appreciate you, like I said, taking the time to talk with me here. Everyone watching and listening, please go follow the crap out of Johnny, his podcast, and of course, Avenged Sevenfold, and stream the crap out of their music. You can also follow me at Jesse Lee on TikTok and Instagram, at Jesse Lee Show on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And most importantly, please make sure to share this podcast episode with somebody that doesn't suck. All right. Take it easy now, and bye-bye. Yeah!